Well, hello everybody. Blair Nightingale here, coming at you. Stock Talk Thursday. It is that time. We're going to do something different today. We're going to do something special because I actually think we really need to check in on the stock market. We got to stay plugged into what's happening. That's what Stock Talk Thursday is all about. What's hot, what's not, what's happening in the news. I'm going to give you the rundown on those things as I always do. But I want to come at it a little bit differently today. What you can see on your screen is the S&P 500. Of course, the S&P 500 being the index that we are always following for market tone here at Tradeway. Part of our system, we teach a three-legged trading table. What happens to a table? Three legs, cut one of them out. Of course, the table falls down and everything on it. And in our system, we've got to have these three legs of the trading table. This is what we teach in our program. One of those being the market tone. Market tone, very important piece. And today, what I want to show you quickly is when we're looking at market tone, one of the foundations we got to have is what's the pattern? What's the pattern of the S&P 500 and making sense of what is happening in any stock, including the indexes, okay, by knowing what the pattern is. And what happens when we have a change in patterns, okay? You can see on the right-hand side of my screen here, I've got what's called my go list. When I see something that I think is interesting, it's in a good pattern, it's maybe nearing a buy point, it's something that I'm going to use as an example, teach on, or even personally, it's something that I'm curious about as a stock, as an option for my own application, my own use, my own trading, then it's going to go into this go list, okay? And I have to go through the go list and remove the things. Before coming on the broadcast today, I took a bunch of things out of the list. Why? Because the pattern changed. The pattern changed. So, what I think is really important to cover on Stock Talk for this week, what's been going on, is the fact that, you know what? The pattern has changed. The stock market broke out of the uptrend. Now, we've talked about some of this, but look, we've got multiple patterns on here, multiple patterns. We've got the uptrend, okay? It actually breaks that and gets into what we call a kiss goodbye. Now, I'm not going to teach all the rules of a kiss goodbye on here. That's something we go into in our program, but it's very helpful to know because we watched as soon as the S&P index broke that pattern, we said, let's watch for that kiss goodbye. Let's know what those rules are. And we could potentially use that to protect us and even take advantage of some new opportunities if it plays out correctly, which it did. Also, looking at, we went sideways for 5 days. And not only that, but we went down, then we went up, then we went down, then we went up. And we went up higher yesterday and went down, right? A lot of these in the same day, they went back and forth. Not just a little, that's very normal, but some pretty significant swings intraday in the same day. And then yesterday, we got finally a day up with two in a row, right? 2 days up and then three after today. Pretty significantly up, but then closing below the 50-day moving average. So very what we call squirrely. Squirrely. It's not consistent. It's back and forth, but also even now going, I can use the power of patterns, okay? Patterns to make sense of what's going on. It's never about guessing what's going to happen. It's about saying what is happening and do I have the skill sets to make sense of it, to categorize it in some way. Well, look what we did here. We made a low here and then we floated along this line. So what if I pop that in there and pop this in here, right? Let me do it this way. Obviously the stock market made a high right here, didn't it? And it made one here. And now it's made one potentially today, right? It's pulled back from the highs today. If we have a down day tomorrow, then it's a very clear top. Okay. So why do I highlight those three areas like that? Because in what I see when I look at this chart immediately, do this, I've got that right there, right? I've got that right there. I've simply drawn a line off all these tops, intersects with these tops here, and then it actually lines up pretty darn close today. There's a little adjustment I can make here so that it's right at exactly off of those. This pulls below that. Okay. So now we've got ourselves in a bit of a wedge. We've got ourselves in a wedge pattern, and you can tell because it looks like a wedge. It's the same on the bottom, it's diagonal on the top. So the market giving up some of its strength today, pulling back. A lot of talk in our programs about the need for patience. You want to talk about stock talk, hot or not? What's hot right now is patience. Patience. Rushing huge position sizes, taking too much risk, trying to force the market to do what you think it should do, what I think it should do, what we'd like it to do versus what it is doing. That is not right. Hot and not. That is definitely not what we want to do. Right now, we're going to be patient and wait for the market to show us bullish conviction. If we're talking about buying stocks, right? We stand to profit if the stock moves higher, and thus we're looking for the stock market to move higher. Then we need to be patient for it to show us what it really wants to do, even though it moved up today, right? It did move up today. But if we're going to do anything in here, then it's advisable that we are doing something small, because we're technically right at a resistance point. We're still not out of this downtrend. Now, it looked convincingly, even just over an hour before the market closed today, like we were going to close well outside of that, looking nice and strong. And then it dropped pretty hard that last hour of the day to get back below that line, back below the 50-day moving average, almost below the 20-day moving average, giving up most of the gains that it had on the day, well over half. So definitely pattern, right? When we look at it that way, we don't have to guess. You say, well, can we expect a move back into this level, right? According to the pattern, yes, that is what we would expect. Okay, now, could it break that pattern tomorrow? Of course it could. But if you were making decisions today, let's say in the last hour of today, most of the trading volume, or at least a much heavier amount of the trading volume, happens in the last hour of the day, even further towards the end of the last hour of the day. So if you were looking to trade something in that time period today, you would have noticed, oof, it's pulling back. And to take a position in here would have been even more speculative, okay? Because the pattern is telling us it's more likely to move back down to this level here, or at least retest these moving averages. But that never guarantees that it does that. It just says that the pattern is suggesting that is more likely. So to essentially open a trade that requires it break the pattern, always possible, right? Always possible. You could have done that today. You could be right tomorrow, but it's going to require that it defy, if you will. It's going to require that it breaks the pattern. So such a huge key of how we would approach the market over time is using the pattern and understanding if I'm betting against a pattern in a sense, then I should adjust the amount of risk that I'm willing to take, because the probability of that happening is in essence lower than it continuing in the pattern, not seeing the kind of strength from the buyers at the end of the day that we would have liked to see for a continual movement. Of course, I usually do the news item at the end. I think it's appropriate to bring that up now. What is the big thing in the news right now? Big thing in the news as far as Wall Street is concerned is the debt ceiling. Congress announcing that they've reached a deal on the debt ceiling. I would add Congress announcing that they have a deal and actually passing the deal are two different things. So we'll see how that actually progresses tomorrow. And if that falls apart on us, then we could definitely see that impacting the market. As is right now, we're hearing that they actually have a deal. Of course, the market responding positively, but you can tell pulling back, taking profits. Wall Street pulled a lot of those profits off the table near the end of the day when we saw the market fall. That could be them hedging their bets against the uncertainty of where we are and where we're going. We had a pretty good amount of data today, good news today, I should say, that caused that buying sentiment to rise. But to see them take a lot of that off the table before the end of the day, definitely managing some risk there. So again, a deal announced and a deal signed and done are two different things. And of course, we need to see them get that done. Okay. So that being said, also want to just expand on that a little bit. Let's just go ahead and dive in here. I see Jeffrey. Jeffrey's joining us today. Thank you for being on here, my friend. Howdy, howdy. 73 and partly sunny in my neck of the woods, says Jeffrey out there in Colorado. I'm actually in California today, and it's the exact same. 73, a little bit cloudy today, nice and cool out here. Jeffrey always jumps on, lets us know what's going on in the weather. And just like Jeffrey, you can jump in, say hi, ask a question, anything you might want to know as we are going through this here. So please, Facebook, YouTube friends, go ahead, pop that in the comments. Let me know what you're thinking, where you're at. Would love to be able to answer questions for you in this time together here. Okay. Now, that said, I want to show you, let's see, I'm going to the wrong page. There we go. Let's just look at this. Now, the market having been less predictable, I don't even want to say it that way, guys. We have to adjust. So this can be one of the most challenging things about trading. When it's reliable, consistent, repeatable, like what? Like this pattern here. Boom, boom, boom. It goes up, hits the 20-day, comes back down. Goes up, hits the 20-day, comes back down. Goes up, hits the 20-day, comes back down. Goes up, doesn't quite get there, almost, comes back down. Okay, then it tries and fails. So we're in some transition. It's changing. Okay, it's changing. We have to be patient enough for you and I to go, what's it changing into? Okay, and that means we need vocabulary. We need vocabulary in two ways. One, we need to know what patterns are there, what patterns tend to form, right? We want to teach you that in our program. The more patterns you can identify, the more you will be able to have the vocabulary, if you will, to identify what's happening on the chart and know what's likely to happen next. I mentioned several patterns already, and those played out exactly how those patterns are supposed to play out here, even in transition. All that to say, when the market starts going nuts, per se, right? It breaks its pattern and it's changing. It can feel confusing. It can feel back and forth. And if we try to trade in that time, if we try to force trades in that time, we can easily give back profits that we may have made when it was consistent, reliable, repeatable trend or pattern prior to that, right? That's better. We like that, but we know that the market goes through transition. So we've got to be patient in there. We've got to have vocabulary. We also have to look at, do I have other strategies? Do I have other strategies that I can use? Buying stocks, buy low, sell high. That is only one strategy. Options give you the opportunity to do a lot more with the stock market, whether it's going up, down, or sideways, versus just being able to buy stocks. So maybe it's time for you to expand your tool set a little bit, expand your vocabulary so you can see more and do more and ultimately move forward more in the market. So what we really need to do is understand how to look and find the different patterns and also have the skill set. So I want to show you, we've looked at this a couple of times. So here's a stock that even despite, I'm going to go ahead and get rid of these boxes, right? Patterns. We want to look at patterns that are ultimately still reliable, predictable, repeatable. Now this one's not bouncing, okay, but it stayed intact. Even when the market's been volatile and back and forth, this one ultimately still is showing us basically what it's been showing us since July. Okay, so there's a great example. And in our programs, we'll post stocks like this for you to be able to see as they're developing. You join us here on Stock Talk Thursday, you get to see one of them. Let's go on to another one. This one's not one that we typically will show. I'm going to go ahead and get rid of this old line here. because we need to have the right skill sets to even be able to do something with a stock like this. Here, and I'm going to go ahead and do this. Oops. Popping this guy in here, doing the same thing on the bottom. We talked about this on Market Monday. Why would I do this? What am I really doing here? But for the sake of today, I'm just going to pop them in there. That is a textbook downtrending pattern. Okay. Now, that if the market gets into a place where it's very bearish, right? It's negative, it's trending down, I might go out and be looking for potential put opportunities. Buying put options makes money when the stock moves down, but we need to be able to identify those as well. So stocks that are hot, I can identify them. Stocks that are not, I can identify them in a very defined way, not just something that's dropping, but something that is dropping in a reliable, consistent, and repeatable way, so that if I see market tone go a certain way and in a certain pattern, I can go out and try to take advantage of some of these opportunities, and I can expand the amount that I am able to take advantage of. I'm able to expand my activity and my potential profits in the stock market because I have other skill sets. Okay. And if you're out there today and you've been watching on Stock Talk Thursday and you've not yet got into our step one program where we're going to teach you our system, we're going to teach you those three legs of the trading table. We're going to teach you about what is an option and how does it work. We're going to give you a whole preview of that side of things as well. That's also going to be the prerequisite into our next level, which is all about options. You've got to get over to tradeway.com and join up for the step one Start Your Journey class. It's right there on the main page, www.tradeway.com. Step one. You can join right there for less than $100. You're going to spend 2 full days with us online. We're going to teach you our approach to the markets so we can lessen anxiety. We can show you what you need to know. You are going to know how to go out and find your own trades. We're going to give you that options preview and show you how you can get into that place where you can use those skill sets and even identify a pattern like this that goes up, hits resistance, drops, goes up, hits resistance, drops, goes up, hits resistance, drops. Now it tried today. We had a positive day in the market today, didn't we? It tried, but it's still failing. It's still weak. And this stock is definitely selling off. This is an environment I'd rather be in if I was looking to profit from the stock moving down. So let us show you the what, the when, and the how right there in that class. Charlie says, I like the clarity of the teaching. We don't have the power of clear patterns. The stock market really feels like chaos. It feels like gambling. It feels random. It feels like I've got to go out and look at news. I've got to look at balance sheets. I've got to look at what's the word I'm looking for here, guys? I can't think of it now for some reason. I have to look at Wall Street's opinion on whether or not a company is going to grow, whether it's going to do better in the future, whether or not the opinions about different things are positive or negative. And hopefully someone else knows what they're talking about so that I can make a decision based on that. See, when you have a system in place, you don't need to do any of that, right? You don't need to listen to any of those people. That's why when we come on here for Stock Talk Thursday, we spend 90% of the time talking about the chart. We're not spending that time talking about the news. Now, I think we spend some time talking about the news, but even then, what do? We narrow it down to one thing. We narrow it down to one thing so that we can cut out a lot of the noise because there's a lot of noise in the news, okay? And that's not new. So what we want to do is make it simple for you. And like Charlie says, I like the clarity. That's what we're going to do in our course. We're going to give you simple step-by-step instructions that you can apply to every chart you see. By the way, we're going to show you how to have your own charts. It's not so hard to do, right? Before long, you're going to be drawing the kind of lines that you've seen me draw right here on the screen. You may not think so, but I've seen it happen over and over again. Most powerfully, of course, I've seen it happen in myself because I came into this with zero trading background, zero economics background. I wasn't into it. I didn't understand it. In fact, as a Christian, full disclosure, I kind of thought money was bad. I've told you guys that on here before, but wow, what a journey I've been on. And at Tradeway, I'll say this last thing before I wrap up today. We're not just on a financial journey, we're on a spiritual journey. Everything we do at Tradeway, we want to do according to the word of God, according to the leading of the Holy Spirit. That's a huge core value. I don't just say that to say that in this webinar. That is who we are, right? That is something that is such a part of our teaching. And this stock trading system has biblically guided principles. There's wisdom in the scriptures for investing. There's wisdom in the scriptures for money. And we ought to apply that to everything that we do. Certainly, we do that here. And it's been an incredible journey for me developing as a person because of my pursuit of trading in the stock market. We don't just want to show you how to make sense of the chart, but we want to take you on that whole journey. And we believe that's such a huge part of why God calls certain people to this journey. And of course, it's not something that we, force or anything like that. It's just part of who we are. And it's a joy of how we get to walk this out together. Certainly something I have loved since starting in the winter of 2016. Okay. So that's an update on the markets today. Squirrely, yes, it has been trying to force a square peg into a round hole if we're trying to do what we've been doing the last 4 months, because the market's not doing that anymore. However, there is still rhyme to the reason, right? There is still a pattern happening here. And I've helped identify that for you today. Hopefully, significant tomorrow is this line still. Now, we retreated at the end of the day, but that's not to say that it's over, right? If I start really seeing that drop off that line, we know we've still got pretty strong resistance there. And things are looking more bearish than they had. We've made a high, and here we go. Is this going to be another high, or can we break through and get higher than we did at the height of today? That is your Stock Talk Thursday for this week. I'm going to go ahead, stop that screen share. Thanks everybody for being on here today. I appreciate you. We had a good sized crowd. I know most of you are going to be watching this by the recording. Don't forget, step one, start your journey is on the Tradeway main page, tradeway.com. Right there, you can join. Like I said, less than $100, 2 full days. We're going to fill your brain with practical information informed by the word of God so you can learn our stock trading system. You can get started on your own, and we're going to give that window into options. And you want to get into the options because it gives you so many new tools that you can use for you and your family in the stock market. It's very powerful stuff, but you got to taste and see for yourself. So go ahead and jump into that. I would love to see you guys there. If you need anything, finally, support at tradeway.com, care of Stock Talk Thursday. You can write us Stock Talk Thursday and let us know if you have any questions, anything, maybe something you'd like us to cover. Go ahead, send that into support at tradeway.com. I'd be happy to cover that, and those can be sent there. That said, thank you guys so much for being on, and we will see you next time.